Hello, I am Chef Andrew Parker.
And I'm Nicky.
And I'm Lalitha. Today we're going to make an awesome entree with balsamic chicken and acorn squash.
So to start off with, we're going to start cooking the chicken first because the protein is going to take you a while to cook. You know, you want to make sure it's cooked all the way to prevent salmonella. You don't want it raw. So you want to get your pan nice and hot because when you put chicken in, you don't want it to get soggy from the oil. You want it to start cooking right away. So now this pan's nice and hot. I got it on medium-high heat.
And what kind of chicken do we have here? What part of the bird?
So this is the chicken breast, and we have used grain-fed chicken. It's lower in fat. It's a healthier choice. Now with the chicken breast, you know, it's not the muscles are not used as much compared to the thighs, so it's going to be a leaner choice.
Mm-hmm. Poultry in general is going to be lower in saturated fat versus red meat, so that's great in terms of cardiovascular health. All right, so while Andrew is cooking that up, we're going to talk about squashes.
Yes.
Great, they have squashes. I love butternut squash. It's such a great source of vitamin A. When you cut it open, you see those deep, rich orange colors, and that's what you want to see with your squashes.
Squashes may be intimidating because we're not really sure how to cook with them. All you really have to do is slice them in half, roast them in the oven or the microwave, and then it's a great way to add that fiber to your diet.
Especially acorn squash. Acorn squash is a fabulous source of soluble fiber.
So if you look at your squash, I have a butternut squash here.
And I have an acorn squash.
They usually come with a sticker on it that does have cooking instructions right on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to follow the one where you slice it in half, and we're actually just going to microwave it.
Which is great because you're already using your stove right now to cook the chicken. You don't have to worry about using your stove again. You can just focus on the microwave, and it's going to take less time to cook in the microwave as well. So we're just going to open these up and show you what the inside looks like.
Now while cooking any dish in your pan, you don't want to sit here and play with it. You really want to let it cook. I'm going to let it cook more now.
So now that we've opened up our squashes, as you can see, Nicky's is a beautiful dark orange, dark yellow color, and that's what you really want with your squash. That's going to mean that there's more antioxidants like vitamin A present in that vegetable. And so when you have it opened, just feel free to discard the strings and the seeds. Now, if you're using a pumpkin, and even with these acorn squashes, if you want to dry the seeds and roast them, they're very nutritious, so you don't necessarily have to waste those seeds.
Spaghetti squash actually looks like spaghetti when cooked. Both of these squashes come out more like a potato when cooked.
Yeah, these ones are a little bit more starchy. In particular, this acorn squash is very high in soluble fiber. Fiber is great for making you feel fuller longer. It's great for weight management, blood sugar control. I love acorn squash because it looks like a little bowl. And so whatever you're preparing, whether it be your chicken or some other type of protein, you can actually put your protein inside of the acorn squash. So I'm going to show you how to microwave this. The first thing that you want to do is you want to get a microwavable casserole dish. So we have one right here. You're going to put a little bit of water. So I have about a cup of water. Because this is a bit smaller, I'm probably only going to use half a cup.
And this allows it to steam.
I'm going to place my acorn squash flesh down in the dish. And then we're going to put it in the microwave for about 7 minutes.
Towards the end of this stage is where you want to put the balsamic in because you got all this delicious flavor at the bottom of the pan. And when I put that balsamic in, it's gonna deglaze the pan and it's gonna add that flavor to your chicken. That's a real pungent smell. You really wanna cook your balsamic to get that nice flavor into your chicken. Now I'm just gonna turn up the temperature to almost about a high.
And while that still is cooking in there, I just want to talk a little bit about the butternut squash. Even though we're not preparing this for you, you can easily prepare this in the microwave, similarly to how we did the acorn squash. So flesh down in a microwavable casserole dish with some water, or you can roast it in the oven. One of our family favorites is cutting up the butternut squash, roasting it in the oven with a little bit of olive oil with some other vegetables. It is delicious. And after you roast it, you can even puree the butternut squash and make a wonderful savory soup with this squash.
Now when checking your chicken, you want to grab the biggest piece out of here and see if it's cooked. See, that's almost what you're looking for. Could be on there for another 30 seconds. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of water, flavor the balsamic off the bottom of the pan. See how it all came off there? Now when you're cooking your proteins, you want to season it at the end, because if you season it at the beginning, you're going to burn the spices onto it. So it's good to season it at the end so you can add some pepper and what other spices you want to it.
So now that our acorn squash is out of the microwave, to check to see if it's done, you just want to take a spoon or a fork and make sure that it's soft. Now I have some extra strings in my acorn squash, so I'm just going to scoop them out and discard them. They're not very good tasting, so we want to make sure that we get all of those strings and any extra seeds out of the acorn squash. Acorn squash is a little bit more starchier than the spaghetti squash, and so it's almost like a little, it's similar to potato, I would say.
Okay, so when it's kind of soft is when you know it's ready?
That's right. And because it has a starchier taste, it also fills you up because it feels like you're eating a starch, which makes it a great replacement for actual starch at a meal. So instead of having your typical rice or pasta or potatoes, you can have acorn squash. So once you get rid of all of the strings in the acorn squash, now's a good opportunity to add some seasonings to it. So I usually like to add a little bit of basil, some pepper, even some fresh garlic. You don't necessarily have to have it savory. You can have acorn squash sweet as well. So even a little sprinkle of honey is delicious inside of acorn squash.
So just to add a little bit of seasoning to our acorn squash, we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of pepper on the inside. And then we're going to use it as a bowl to plate our chicken, just to make it a little more fun.
Now I've threw some fresh red peppers in here to give it some color, some crunch, and then you got your vegetable in here as well. So we're just gonna plate it like this.
I think this is a great, easy way to wow dinner guests because the bowls are so creative, they're so unique, and you can eat them, and they're nutritious as well.
And you got that handful of protein as well in there.
Yes.
That's really what you want.
And let's add some greens to this plate.
Now all we do with the greens is toss in a little bit of olive oil and some pepper. And we threw some red peppers in there as well for some color.
And when we think about where we purchase these foods, all of these foods were found on the outer perimeter of the grocery store. Our fresh produce section for the acorn squash and the green leafy lettuce and peppers, and fresh meat from the meat section of the grocery store. So this is all whole, natural, nutritious food.